Okay, do you want to tell us your name and what you do here?
My name is Kelly Patterson, and I'm a parapro at Duncan Elementary.
Wonderful. And what is a typical day look like?
Well, my student is, and he has spina bifida. He was born with spina bifida, so I need to be with him the second he gets out of his mom's minivan until the second he leaves the school, because he needs round-the-clock care. So it's pretty busy.
Wow. And what are some of the things that you do that might be different than what some special education teachers do?
Well, every 4 hours he has to go to the bathroom, and I have to catheterize him. And he normally is able to put the cath in himself. Most of the time he is. And then sometimes he has accidents. I have to change his brief and cath him every 4 hours, which is no big deal for me because that stuff doesn't bother me. And then every once in a while he does have a number 2 accident, so that's a lot more work, because he's about 150 pounds, so he's pretty heavy. But he can get himself onto the table, but then I have to lift all his legs, and it is a lot of work, I'm not going to lie. But it's okay, I don't mind it. And then I go out for recess with him, but I play with the other kids then, because he doesn't want to be around me. So I get to play with all the other kids, which is kind of nice. And then I don't help him with any schoolwork at all. He's mentally, he's probably sharper than me. He just can't walk around like me. That's it.
Right. And then also, what do you do outside of schools?
Oh yeah. Last year he had surgery on he had a tethered cord. The language is called a tethered cord, and when he had spina bifida, it got wrapped around his spine, and so he went in for that surgery this past summer, and it didn't go so well. The surgery went fine, but then he had so many complications, and so I would go down, and every time I'd go down, I'd have to bring him a chocolate milkshake, and I'd go all the time to go see him. He loved it, and then his mom and dad would get some relief. When I was there, they knew he was good, and then he would get these seizures, and it was just horrible. And so, but anyway, it was a long summer for him, longer for him than me, but I felt real bad for him, and his family. But he did good. He's great now. He's having the best year ever, so we're happy with that.
Great. And what are the best things about your job?
All of the kids. I love them. They know I'm not here I'm here for all of them, because I just love kids, and special babies are the best, but I love all of them. They're all special.
And what type of training do you have to do the job that you do?
Well, they gave me training because I've never cathed before. They gave me special training prior to having him, and I got to meet him and introduce him and all that good stuff. But then the other, with the briefs and things like that, I have a son. I know how to change a diaper. And, but yeah, so no, I don't, I have training through the summer, and then you always get, special ed training. What am I trying to think of here? ADD, you get all those autistic training. I've had all of those trainings through my years.
Wonderful. And if you had to give any advice to teachers, especially education teachers, that work with paraeducators, what would you tell them?
Probably just to be patient. But, everybody here at Duncan is very, very patient with these kids. But even if, to us, not getting a bagel and cream cheese in the morning might not be a big deal, but to maybe a kid with autism, that could be like the end of their whole day, that the routine was off and now their day is ruined. So you kind of got to look at that. It might not be a big deal to you or I, but to them their day it's over. They can't even get past it. So you got to just take every day with a grain of salt with these kids.
Great. And what makes a good gen ed or special ed teacher and paraeducator combo? So in other words, what helps you best work with a gen ed and special ed teacher?
Well, I honestly have never had any problem with any teacher at all. I think that they treat us very respectfully, and they treat us like one of their own. They don't treat us like below them at all. Maybe they just treat me that way, but I've been very blessed with the teachers I've worked with.
And what is challenging about being a paraeducator?
The only challenging part is I get extremely close with these kids, and it's very hard to separate those feelings, when you go home, because you still think about them, and and you work just like, you worry about them. And that's the only hard part about any of it, is I get so emotionally connected with these kids. I can't just let it go.
Awesome. And for our last question, is there anything that gets in the way of your job?
No.
No.
Nope, nothing gets in the way, because I kind of do whatever I feel is right to do. And so nobody ever bothers me about anything, really. Nothing ever gets in the way, no. I'm just do what I need to do, and nobody bothers me with it.
Good. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So what is challenging about being a paraeducator?
Well, every day is different. We're in 6 different classrooms a day with 6 different teachers usually, different kids. That's the challenging part.
Okay. What type of education or training do you have?
Well, in Rochester, they require a certain amount of college credits, so I have 3 years of community college.
Okay, awesome. Is there any additional training or education you had to have to be in this education, or?
We have ongoing PD days, ASD PDs. We have crisis intervention classes that we take. That's about it.
Okay. And has there been any other major changes in your job as a district, like within districts or special education?
They're cutting back on para's hours, so a lot are part-time, and it just puts more pressure of us in the classroom with the kids, helping them to get their work done in the short time that we have with them.
Right. Okay. And I know we kind of briefly talked about this, but do you prefer push-in or pull-out for students?
I think it just depends a lot on their home environment. If they have a lot of support at home, I think putting the kids in the general ed class is a good idea, because then they're with a lot of friends. And if they don't have a lot of support, I think it's more difficult for them.
Okay. And so what does your typical day look like?
Well, I get here about 5 to 7.
Oh, wow.
Start with the kids at 7:10. I meet them for homeroom, stay with them in homeroom, and then on through the day.
All right. What type of students do you typically work with?
I work with cognitively impaired, ASD. I had worked with Down syndrome students, emotionally impaired students.
Okay. And then how long have you been a paraeducator?
Been a para for 15 years. I started out in the lunchroom
Oh.
and then into special ed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are the skills or personal characteristics do you think are required for this field of work?
You have to be empathetic, you have to be a good listener, you have to just want to be there for the kids, and when they want to talk, you have to be able to listen to them.
All right. And what are the hardest or easiest things that you find with your job?
Just trying to figure out what they need when they can't communicate it, and sticky notes are helpful.
I use a lot of those too. Is there anything easy about the job? I mean,
I love my job.
okay.
I wouldn't be doing it for 15 years if I didn't love what I do.
True.
I love the kids.
That's awesome. And then what is something us as teachers could do to make things easier or better for you?
Just to be approachable when we see we have a problem or if something's happening in the classroom. just be available for us to be able to come up and say, I need your help with this, or just the look when we give each other the look, like, you know, when it's like, can you jump in?
Right. Okay. Are there any things that get in the way of you doing your job?
Oh, not really.
No. Okay.
Not really. As long as there's open communication, it's
Okay.
pretty good.
Good. And then, what makes a good general education teacher, special education teacher, and educator combo?
Well, I think as long as the para feels comfortable asking the teacher for direction, if we need handouts or printed out notes that we can give to the student if they need help. And most of the teachers are more than willing to do that.
Okay. And then, what guidelines do you follow to make sure you stick with like what's expected of you, or as a paraeducator?
We have the IEPs at a glance,
Okay.
which we look at those and make sure if the student needs small group or extended time, take breaks. So that's what our guideline is, and then we follow the teacher's instructions.
So, what advice do you have for teachers, especially special education teachers who work with paraeducators, if you have any?
I would say always communicate with us.
Okay.
Be open so that if we have questions, we can go to the teacher and ask them how we can help the student.
Okay, so I have only worked with you for a short time, and I know you are so amazing, so you have to have won some kind of an award. Is there any awards for paras?
They do have Sparkle Awards, and that is for any staff member. It is sponsored by the special ed parents, and they put out nomination forms, and anybody could be nominated. Paras, teachers, custodians, lunch staff, and they're nominated by your peers. And I did get nominated twice, and the first time was by one of the Down syndrome students, and she wrote a letter and